Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO Candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.
Good day, learners. How are you doing today? Trust you are doing well. You are welcome to Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. My name is Emmanuel, and I'll be teaching you history. Today, we'll be looking at British colonialism of Nigerian territories. British colonialism of Nigerian territories. At the end of today's class, students will 1. Define colonialism. Students will describe the British colonialists and their emergence in Nigeria. Students will explain the reasons for colonialism in Nigeria. We'll also look at how British conquered Nigerian territories. And lastly, students will discuss the effect of British colonialization on Nigeria today. What is colonialism? Colonialism is the practice of one country taking full or partial control on another country and occupying it with settlers for purpose of profiting from its resources and economy. It is worthy to note that the taking over is usually from a developed, economically stable country, a well-developed country taking over the aim or affairs of a less developed country. From ancient time to the beginning of the 20th century, powerful countries, especially the likes of France, Britain, Germany, among others, they scrambled to expand their influence through colonialism. In this context, Nigeria was colonized by Great Britain. British colonialists and their emergence in Nigeria. Colonial Nigeria was the era in the history of Nigeria when Nigeria was ruled by the United Kingdom from the mid-19th century up till 1960, when Nigeria gained an independence on October 1st. The British influence in the region known as Nigeria began with the prohibition of slave trade. And slave trade was prohibited. They came in, legitimate trade was introduced, the Royal Niger Company up till 1960. Then, as at 1884, there was annexation of the Oil River Protectorate, and in 1861, there was the annexation of the Lagos colony. The British influence in the Niger area increased gradually over the 19th century, but Britain did not effectively occupy the area until 1885, and other European powers acknowledged 1885 Berlin Conference. Reasons for British colonialism in Nigeria. Yeah, it can be categorized into 2 or 3 major categories. Number 1 is economic reasons. Under economic reason, number 1 is to search for cheap labor. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, the Europeans came into Africa in search of cheap labor for their production. That was the origination of the slave trade, which can be traceable to the search for cheap labor. Yes. 2, the search for raw materials. The high demand for raw materials in industries in the European continent could not supply made the industrialists to venture overseas. There are some raw materials that were needed in Europe. Because they could not get them, that's part of the reason why they came in. So when they came into the region known as Nigeria that is rich and blessed with a lot of raw materials, that was why they thought of it that it is very important for them to be at the helm of affairs, for them to take over the region. Then the search for new markets. The quest for new markets for the finished goods. After getting raw materials, the Europeans still need a place or region to sell their manufactured goods. To sell their manufactured goods. And that was why even during the slave trade, there was the triangular trade system. Then the socio-political and religious purpose or reason. Quest for power among European countries. The desire for power and influence among the countries in Europe after years of war made the European venture outside their continent. There was need to expand their influence. There's need to expand their powers. The quest for powers among European countries brought about colonialism, which Britain was one of them. Also, propagation of culture. Europeans saw Africans' culture as being uncivilized, and they considered African culture as inferior to their own. In order to put a spread to their own culture. That's part of the reasons for that. Then also religious belief as well. In an attempt to spread their religion. That's one of the reasons for the colonialism. How British conquered Nigerian territory. There are 3 major ways or strategies. Number 1 is through signing of treaties and peace occupation. Yes, when they came, there were a lot of restrictions from the occupants as at that time. But they met with the traditional rulers. That was why the system of government that was used was indirect through the traditional rulers. So the traditional rulers were made to sign peaceful treaties. Then 2, military conquest. Those who failed to sign the peaceful treaties were being taken over by force. The example is Benin massacre. The conquest of Arochukwu, Oraku is also one of the examples of the military conquest that took place. Then, social transformation brought about culture, religion, education in a way to entice the occupants. Effects. What are the effects of British colonization? Number one is creation of unified entity, which was what Frederick Lugard did. It was during the colonial era that amalgamation took place between the southern and the northern protectorate. So the effect of colonialism on Nigeria was that it brought about the creation of one single and unified entity or country. Number two is currency and taxation. Yes. Colonization or colonialism brought about currency. Before they arrived, the means of exchange was trade by barter. When they came, they brought about in form of currency, monetary and paper notes. Then also tax, imposition of tax, which has to be paid in cash or compelled. So, introduction of Western education. One of the positive effects of colonialism, it brought about education, it brought about cultural westernization, it brought about religion as well, it brought about the development of infrastructure in the aspect of railways, transportation, hospitals, and so on. Likewise, ports. The practice question. The answer to the practice question is 1. Colonial rule gave Nigeria the opportunity for employment, such as laborers, miners, clerks, and technicians. 2. The encouragement of new production of cash crops for export. New roads, telegraphs, these are the effects of colonial rule on Nigerian economy. Then also, the negative effects. The colonialism has a lot of negative effects. Number one of it is the economic exploitation, yes. Because at that time, the colonizers were free to exploit us. They were able to take the raw materials in mass to their own country for production and still send back the manufactured goods to be sold there. So there were economic exploitation, loss of natural resources were being carted away. Cultural erosion, yes. Some of our culture, people forget in terms of our dressing, in terms of our food, try to erode or erase some of our cultures, not all. Human rights violation, yes, there were violations, which has to do with the slave trade. Destruction of local industries, yes. Before they arrived, we are very good at our own local industries, where we make pottery, where we make artifacts and others. But when they came, they concentrated more on cash crops and neglected the food crops. Here's the end of our class for today. If you have any suggestion or feedback, please contact us through any of our social media platforms displayed on the screen. Thank you for watching.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.